What's up, everyone? Today we're here with Brandon Wallace, who's a D1 from the Tufts University School of Dental Medicine. We're going to learn a little bit about his journey to dental school and his experience as a D1 during COVID. Thanks for being here today, Brandon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Of course, we're honored to have you. So could you give us a brief description on where you're originally from, where you went to undergrad, what your major was, and if you took a gap year or not?
Yeah, sure. So originally I'm from Fayetteville, North Carolina, and I grew up there pretty much all my life. And then I attended North Carolina A&T State University for undergrad, where I majored in biology there. And after graduation, I had two gap years. So I'm not your traditional student. I'm traditional, I guess you could say. Let's see. So after graduating undergrad, I did a summer program at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, the Medical Education Development Program, which is basically a 9-week program that simulates your first year at dental school. So I did that program, and I can elaborate on that later. And I did that program, and then after that, I attended a post-bac program at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. Only did that for a year. Again, I can elaborate on that too, if you would like me to later on. Sure. And proceed after that, I taught high school for a year. So taught high school for a year, taught 9th grade Earth and Environmental Science. And then after that, I attended Hampton University, where I received my master's in medical science there. And then I took some more time off. And then I was a program manager of a grant at Hampton University. And after that, that's when I got into dental school, and now I'm here. So, pause. Yeah. Actually, after I was a program manager of a grant at the grant, I did a 1-year internship at an oral maxillofacial surgeon's office. So I did that for a year. So I worked in the oral surgery office for 1 year. After that, and now I'm here in dental school.
So when did you figure out that you wanted to pursue dentistry? Where was that in the timeline?
Oh, it was always there. It was just me making a lot of mistakes in undergrad, having a lot of fun in undergrad. I can say that I wasn't necessarily as focused as I should have been, being a biology major and whatnot, but definitely had fun in undergrad. Don't regret it at all. But at the same time, I wish I would have, looking back on it, I would have had to do all these other things to make up for what I did on the back end from undergrad. So
okay.
That's basically what happened. Yeah.
Okay. So you're at Tufts right now, so I'm sure you did super well on your DAT. Could you share a little bit about your experience, how you studied for it, and what your number one tip would be for pre-dent?
Yeah, sure. Knowing what I know now and looking back on it, I took the DA three times. Okay. So
maxed out the number of chances.
yeah. So that was definitely one of my hurdles to actually get into dental school was the DAT. But looking back on it and knowing what I know now, if I would have known this practice questions instead of this content, I think I would have done a lot better coming from it. Because the first 2 times I've taken the DAT, it was almost like it was this content. And then the third time, just to tell a story on that too, I took it the first time just to take it. Just to take it kind of thing. Never do that. Always go in this test knowing that you are confident that you should take this test. Second time I took it, I did a lot better. And I was like, okay, cool. But I still didn't get into dental school. So I was like, okay, let me take it again. I took it a third time and actually did worse than I did the second time. So I'm at a standstill now of how can I get to dental school? What can I do to get to dental school kind of thing? So yeah, my story is not ideal. I don't have the ideal of, I went to undergrad, I did this, and then I got into dental school. No, actually I had many hurdles to get here, and I'm actually just very fortunate to be sitting here at Tufts.
So you talked about a lot of practice problems. So I'm going to study for my DAT this summer, actually. So I'm curious about this. What did you use as your DAT resource? You used Boot Camp?
Yeah, DAT Boot Camp. I would say DAT Boot Camp. That was helpful for me. And it actually simulated the testing environment very well. But I've heard there are some other things out there now called iPrep, I want to say.
Yeah.
But I heard it's a lot more expensive than the DAT Boot Camp, but I've heard it's very worth it. So DAT Boot Camp was for me.
Okay. And when you did like the practice problems, they have like they have the tests, and then they also have those like tagged questions that you can do, right? Is that what
Yeah.
you did?
Yeah. So everything on there. So I literally went through everything I could possibly do on the DAT Boot Camp. So I think they have a question bank too as well that I just ran through practice problems, and I actually followed the guide too. I think there's a 10-week or something like that guide that you can use. That I followed that to the T, because when I took it the second time, I actually followed that to the T, and then even when I took it the third time, I actually ended up doing worse. But at the same time, I followed that to the T, and actually my weakest section was organic chemistry. That was actually the section I actually did very well in. But I followed that to the calendar to the T. So that's what I did.
Okay. All right. Great tips. So, how did you show interest in Tufts beforehand? Like, did you attend any pre-dental events or like network with any admissions members or just current?
Yeah. So actually, it's a crazy story. I was in grad school at Hampton, and I was the only pre-dental in my little study circle. Everybody else was pre-med, and I was the only pre-dent in that little immediate study circle that I studied with at Hampton. And lots of you not, group said, we're going to Boston for an AMEC conference in Boston. And I was like, you know what? I've never been to Boston before. I'm going to go. So I booked my ticket to Boston, and because I just had to pay for the ticket, and then we were splitting the hotel. So I was like, okay, let's just go to Boston. I've never been. I'm gonna explore. While y'all are doing your thing and your medical stuff, I'm gonna go explore the city. I've never been to Boston. Never been to Boston, so let's go. Mm-hmm. I had booked my ticket already, just knowing this was going free flowing. My pre-health advisor at Hampton sent out an email saying that Tufts is having an Impressions Day the same weekend I'm going there. So I'm just like, wow, what a coincidence. Like I don't think that's a coincidence at all. So I was like, wow, let me register for it. I registered for it, and I end up going. And that's where I end up meeting Tyrell. I met Tyrell at the Impressions Day, and he was like, hey man, like, he just came to me, we was talking. He was like, I really like Tufts, yes, it's hard, dental school's hard. He just give me all the ins and outs and stuff like that. He said, but before you leave here, I want you to meet Dr. Robert Kasberg. And he went and introduced me to Dr. Robert Kasberg. And Dr. Kasberg was like, you know what? This is before I even took the DAT the third time. He was like, he asked me, of course, what my GPA was and all this other stuff. And he was like, hey, like, I like you. I like your personality and whatnot. When you take your DAT the third time, just email me, because he knew I was applying that upcoming cycle or whatnot. And I said, okay, cool, I'll do that. So with that being said, I attended the Impressions Day at Tufts and ended up making that really good connection with Dr. Kasberg. He remembered me as soon as I got back to Hampton. I emailed him and said, hey, thanks for for just reaching out to me and being opening the door for me and whatnot. And he's the reason why I'm here today.
So you'd say like networking goes a long way for
networking goes a long way, because just going out to these little events, just making yourself known. You don't have to do anything try to make yourself known. Just go and talk to these people and say, hey, I'm really interested in this, dentistry. I'm really trying to work towards it. And it will all come together. Like everything will all come together. And I'm a firm believer of it, because again, I had many obstacles, and he's the one that guided me every step of the way of when I was applying the third time. I applied to school 3 times too. So when I applied again, he was like, Brandon, like, do this. I want you to do this. Make sure you have this in, all this kind of things. And he was the reason why I'm here today.
That is very cool. So was he a part of admissions, or was he just like a professor at Tufts?
He's the dean of student affairs.
Okay, gotcha. Because I feel like when you go to these events, Impressions Day, like usually when you go up to like a admissions member, at least, like I feel like they know what you want, right? Like they know you want to get into dental school and like show your face. So what would you recommend like we do to make it not seem obvious that we're just trying to like network, like, you know what I mean?
Well, really, on top of that, I mean, of course they know that that's what you're here for. And
Yeah.
that's a lot. By you just showing up, they know that you guys want to be there. I know for me, when I had that interaction, it wasn't as necessarily talking about dental school. It was more so talking about like Brandon as a person, because he was like, so Brandon he was like, tell me about yourself. So why dentistry kind of thing. And when I was telling him why dentistry, I kind of got off the topic of, why dental school. I was talking about the book I read why I even got into dental school, and how I even got there. And then he was like, okay, so he was already asking me these kind of questions. So it was us talking about dentistry, but he was more so leading the conversation than I was, because he asked me why dentistry. And then he would ask me, so what extracurricular activities have you done? I was the president of our undergrad student national dental association chapter at the time. And well, when I was an undergrad, and then I was, involved with the USNDA at Hampton. So it was just all these kind of things that I was involved with, and I was telling him my background, and I had taught high school before, and he was like, "Oh wow, you taught high school?" And then he was talking about, so how was that? Like, how was the teaching aspect? So we just went on a tangent off on stuff like that and things like that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be about dentistry. We just go in there and make conversation. Hey, how are you doing? I'm really interested in your school. Like you can say these things because they know that this is why you're there.
Yeah. That's an excellent way of putting it. Yeah. I'm definitely gonna use that at the next events.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
can you walk us through like your day, like your interview day? Like who did you have to talk to? Like what were they showing you? Like how did you feel when you went through it?
So nerves were high, very, very high. I arrived a day early here in Boston. And I actually, as soon as I got to Boston, my first mission was to see how far the walk was timed. So I literally, as soon as I put my bags down, exit the door, get my timer, close the door, and I start my timer. And I started the timer from the door of my room to the door of the dental school. And I added like 2 more minutes onto it. So that way, that next day, I knew how much time I needed for me to walk from my hotel room to the door of that dental school, because that's one thing I did not want to do, and that was to be late. So I did that. Interview day, I was very nervous, but walking in the interview room and doing the icebreaker that we did, it just like took all the nerves away. And I can honestly say here at Tufts, that was probably it was a very chill, very, very chill interview. It was nothing, it was no like pressure. It was none of those things. I didn't feel any of those things, because like as soon as I got there and I was with the interview, like the interview cohort, like we were just talking about different things and like getting to know each other, and just excited to be there, and like all the nerves just went away. And they even stressed that. They were like, please don't stress, like please don't stress. Even the third and fourth years that came and like gave us a tour of the school, they were like, don't stress the interview. I promise it's going to be fine. You're going to have a faculty member, or you may have a fourth year dental student that you're going to interview you, and it's going to be fine. And that was the stress all day long. Like, don't stress. Do not stress the interview. And that's what it was. And it was so chill. And I was so thankful for it.
That is awesome. So do you want to share what the icebreaker was?
Yeah, so we had to come up with you guys, I don't know if you ever seen like the Taxi camera TV show kind of thing. Yeah. So we had to make up a skit. So we had to make up a skit, and it involved, I forgot exactly what it involved, but it was something silly. So everybody's personalities were like just coming out, and we had to make up a story along the way or something like that. And everybody's personalities were coming out. Like one guy was from Minnesota, so he was talking about like skiing and stuff like that he liked to do. And then somebody else was like horseback riding, so they were talking about like horseback riding, and like we were just making up a whole bunch of kind of stuff along the way. And like we had Dr. Holloway, who's the admissions over admissions, and she was just like dying laughing over in the corner. So it was just so much fun. So it was like really chill. It was no like kind of thing. It was none of that. It was just very chill, very chill, very chill. Yeah.
So usually like interview days, like they really influence like prospective, students at that school. So I wanted to lead into the next question, which was like, why did you choose Tufts? And like, what do you think makes Tufts, unique compared to the other schools?
Right. So I always tell the people now, I didn't choose Tufts. Tufts chose me because that was my only interview and my only acceptance. So I'm like, when I say I'm very thankful for Tufts and how that came about, um, yeah, that was really good because everywhere else I applied to 5 schools, but I got denied from all 5 schools and got accepted to Tufts. And even with that, so that's how I can even tie in the oral surgery thing to that. I applied to Tufts and I end up applying to Tufts not last year, but the year before last. So Tufts has a thing with a conditional acceptance. So with that being said, conditional acceptance doesn't mean that you just that mean that you're ready for dental school, but they might want you to do something a little extra. They might want you to get another master's degree. They might want you to take an extra class or two that's going to help you be your best self in your first year. They might want you to retake your DAT again. For me personally, they wanted me to retake. They wanted me to not retake. They wanted me to take a human anatomy course and a pharmacology course, and then I could be enrolled into the D24 class, which is what I'm enrolled in now. So in between time, that's when I end up end up getting a 1-year internship at the oral surgeon's office.
I see. Wait, so you got that through Tufts?
Yeah, so they have a conditional acceptance program. So like you apply for the year, and if you say you don't say they really like you as a student, like you, they love you as a student, they want you to come, and say like all the seats are maybe just filled, or maybe you applied too late, or whatever the case may be, and they see that you can be a strong candidate, you be a great dentist, whatever it may be, they're gonna say, hey, we're gonna give you the seat in the next year's class, but we need you to do this prior to getting into school. And it may be whatever, it might be a master's degree, it may be it doesn't matter. Whatever the conditions say, you have to do those conditions prior to matriculating in. So mine was I just had to take 2 classes, and that's what I did. I took the 2 classes, and I went to go do a 1-year internship at an oral surgeon's office, which was actually very beneficial because some of the stuff that I learned in the oral surgeon's office, I'm using it right now, first year, especially just going over GI. We're in the GI class right now, and we're talking about the GI system. You don't get patients NSAIDs for that, kind of thing. So yeah. I learned that from the office versus I got to reinforce in class now. So now it's just this double stick to my head kind of thing. So I was just like, okay, cool.
Yeah, so those experiences weren't for nothing. They carried over, of course.
Exactly.
So what would you say that makes the school unique, though? So why would a pre-dent want to consider Tufts specifically when applying?
Tufts is really big on mind-body wellness. And that's one thing I can honestly say I really love about Tufts. And it's also a family atmosphere, hands down. Yeah. But the mind-body wellness is phenomenal. We have Dr. Paston, who is our mind-body wellness director of the program here. And so we have a class that we learn how to meditate, we do yoga. They have host yoga sessions. Before any competency, we have a meditation. So we literally, before we take a comp, we literally sit in our chairs and we just breathe, to shake away all the nerves and all those kind of things like that. So it's not a high pressure environment. One thing downside to it, we have our library, school closes at 12 o'clock, so you can't be in there past 12 because they want you to go home and have a life. That's what they really want you to do. So they don't want you to be in the school all night or in the library all night or in the sim lab all night. But it's for our betterment. So yeah, so that's one thing I can honestly say I really like about Tufts. And also too, I really like about it, the family atmosphere. All the professors are so willing to help you. You got Dr. Casberg, Dr. Holloway. You have all your it's just crazy because my class size is pretty big. It's 209. And we have a large class. And you would think that professors wouldn't wouldn't reach out to you. After my clinical anatomy midterm, I had a professor reach out to me, email me and say, hey, Brandon, I know you're preparing for your final. Do you need anything? Do you want me to explain any concepts to you? I'm willing to do it. If you need, this is a personal email. This is not a generic email sent out to everybody. This is Brandon. Do you need any help? And I'm willing to help you. If you need any questions, I'm up late. reach out to me, and I'm willing to explain any concepts or whatever it is. So that's how I knew, like, I'm here at the right place.
That's very cool. Like, I haven't heard that before. That's really interesting. So I just want to go back to what you said initially. You were talking about your a couple programs in North Carolina that you attended. Before we get into like your D1 year, could you elaborate a little bit on what that was about?
Yeah, sure. Like, so I did the medical education development program. That was one program I'm thankful for too as well. And it's a 9-week program. It basically simulates your first year of medical and dental school. You take an exam every Monday, and you're taking biochemistry, microbiology, gross anatomy, dental anatomy for the dental student, the pre-dental students. I know I'm missing some other classes too in there, but we take all these classes, and you take these for the 9 weeks. And you take them and you have a test every Monday, and they're back to back. So they're really trying to simulate dental school and medical school for you. So did that program. And at the end of the program, they give you an evaluation of, like, we highly recommend, we recommend with some kind of conditions, or we don't recommend. That was my shocking point at the moment, because I had just finished undergrad, literally like 2 weeks before I started the program, and it kind of showed my flaws. And at that point, I knew, like, at the end of it, I got recommended, but with conditions. So they said, you need to go get a master's degree. But Brandon, being Brandon, like, no, I don't want to go get a master's degree. I'm not going to listen to you guys. I'm going to go to this 1-year post-bac program, and still wasn't listening. So it was just like, Brandon was kind of stubborn. Brandon was kind of hard-headed. Brandon was like, okay, like, Brandon's gonna do it his way for a little bit. And that's why Brandon probably had 2 gap years versus just one, So yeah.
Okay.
So I did that program. And then I did a post-bac program too. So I did that for 1 year, which is basically taking some classes, like some undergrad classes. It really didn't show my strength of what I could do. So again, I was told, go do a master's program. And I'm just like, I don't want to do one. So I really just needed some time off from school, because at that point I had been in school 5 years straight. And I was like, oh yeah, it's time for a little break. So I actually moved back home to Fayetteville, and I taught high school for a year. So I taught high school, which was kind of refreshing, but at the same time, I love what I did, was teaching the kids, and the kids loved me as well. But I knew at that time when I was teaching, it was like, okay, Brandon still wants to go to dental school. Brandon still wants to go to dental school. And that's when I applied to the math. That's why I found something finally clicked and said, I'm gonna apply this master's program. Ended up applying to a master's program, got in, and I ended up moving to Hampton, Virginia. And that's where, got my master's degree. And yeah, so that's how
finally got the master's degree.
Yeah, finally got the master's degree. Stopped being stubborn, and I was like, let me go get this master's degree. And because that's the only thing that's holding me back from, one of the things that's holding me back, then why not go do it? Kind of thing.
Right, exactly. And it sounds like all these experiences you had after undergrad, they really served you well. Whether they might have helped you directly for the application or not, you seem to have benefited from it. So
yeah, I have. I actually, I'm very thankful, because nothing is wasteful here in life. So everything you go through is for a purpose. So I met people along the way that I never thought I would meet. I did things that I never thought I would do. So it's just the opportunities that came from me being a little stubborn. It's also taught me some things, as in, like, okay, Brandon, this is good. This is good. These are all good things. I never would have got a chance to actually work in this oral surgeon's office, actually get my hands wet with dentistry, if I didn't go this route, kind of thing. So this was all like, it all worked together for my good.
Yeah, really good life lessons too. So
yeah, for sure.
Now that you're in your first year of dental school, like, how has that transition been from, you weren't really you're a pre-dent for a really long time. So what's it like finally being a dental student especially during the pandemic? What's that like?
Wow. So first of all, it was nothing like because you hear D1 horror stories all the time.
Yeah.
But it was nothing like I imagined. First semester, we were all virtual. Every class was virtual. I didn't get to go to the dental school. I didn't hold a handpiece. I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything dentistry related, like dental related. Like I didn't do anything except for just take classes. And I didn't have clinical anatomy lab. Everything was virtual. Every aspect of my first semester of dental school was virtual. Only thing I could do is go to the library. That's the only thing I could do first semester. So a lot of my classmates stayed home and they just did their virtual learning at home. Me personally, I wanted to move to Boston, learn Boston while I could, get adjusted to Boston, and then since I was moving from North Carolina, and really get adjusted to the city life, so that way when stuff does open back up or school fully gets opens back up, it's not a shock to me learning Boston. So that was just my preference. But first semester everything was all online, which was very difficult because you can't really physically touch. You're not going to physically see a professor. Everything's on Zoom. So everything's in breakout rooms, or you learn you're seeing your classmates in breakout rooms. You're meeting them virtually versus meeting them, in a space where everybody normally comes in and just meet all at once. Yeah. This semester is hybrid.
Okay.
Yeah, so this semester is hybrid. So they finally allowed us to we have our sim lab. So I actually picked up a handpiece this semester and finally learned how to drill it. We're drilling like this now. So these are all these kind of things that we're getting to do now. And I feel like we're going to be hybrid both next semester too. Next semester going into my D2 year as well. But being hybrid is cool because now all my didactic work is online, but all my hand skills are actually in person.
So would you say that's the change that the school has made with the curriculum? So like the didactic courses are online now, but you still can go for like sim lab and
so now that's what's one adjustment they have made. The adjustment now is everything didactic, everything that you possibly could take, like didactically, our craniofacial biology course, our dental anatomy course, even that was online. And all these courses that you can possibly take online, they're setting it up to where you can take it online. We take all our exams online. They are proctored, so they have a camera on us and whatnot, and you can't even have it where you look off the screen, you'll get flagged. So there's a whole bunch of things that you can't look down, you can't look down like this. You have to look directly at the screen the whole time and whatnot while you're taking your exam. So they have adapted really well to this. So, but only thing we do go to the school for is just our hand skills. Anything like hand skill related, where we go into operative or things like that, or have our competencies, and we go actually to the school.
So, and do you still get as much time as you want to work on your hand skills? Do you feel like the school is still keeping you at a very high standard to make sure you can be the best dentist?
There are no corners being cut at all. It's anything what they deviated from years past. I know my roommate, he's a second year. He was telling me that operative is a year long. It's supposed to be a year-long course, but they just have more time to work on, they just have more time to perfect things versus now we have to perfect it and we have a short amount of time to do it in, kind of thing. So it's not really deviated too much, but we're not getting cut there's no corners being cut with us. It's just more it's more fast paced. That's all it is. Yes, it's a lot more fast paced.
Yeah, I mean that sounds appropriate. So in all, would you say your first year has been made easier or more difficult? I feel like that might be a hard question to answer because it's so different, right? But when you compare it to to the D2s or D3s, D4s, when they talk about their D1 year, how do you feel yours relates to theirs?
I feel like it's it depends on who you ask, and it depends on because for us, it was the challenge of not physically being in the building. So we physically, for instance, I'll give you an example. Okay. Here's all the classes above us, D2, D3, D4s, they had clinical anatomy. They had 5 exams in clinical anatomy. So they have a lot more room for error, kind of thing.
Okay.
Us, we had clinical anatomy. We only had 2 exams.
Oh,
And there were 21 lectures on each exam.
that's a lot.
So it was just like, I mean, even though we were virtual, we might not have had to go to the lab and dissect the body and whatnot, but we still had 21 lectures for each exam. And we only had 2 exams versus they had 5. You know what I'm saying? So it was just like, but it was actually only, it was only the only class we were taking at the time too. But it all depends on who you ask. And for me, I'm actually enjoying the didactic work because it allows me that I don't have to go to the school to go to. I mean, our classes are not mandatory anyway, but because they'll have the lecture and you can go watch it on lecture capture later on. But for me personally, I like the didactic work. I can be in the facility of my own home, learn what I want to learn the lectures, like do what I want to do when I want to do it, and just move on.
Yeah.
Only thing I do have to go to school for is when I need to go work on my hand skills. Our practice sessions, they're giving us enough practice sessions to go practice our hand skills. Which there are some limitations to that too, because they're going to have so many people in the building at one time, and our class is so big. So it's like a sign up sheet. So it's like as soon as the operative liaison opens up the sign out sheet, it's like a fight to try to get a seat. Then you get your practice time in. But at the same time, like you go get your practice time in, you still can go practice your hand skills. Our operative class is like 3 hours long, so you have plenty enough time to get your hand skills and do what you need to do.
Okay, very good. And my last question for you is, how have you been able to get to know your classmates? So have you been able to meet all of them? And since like you guys have such a big class size, and have you been able to just like, forge some or develop some strong relationships while you're there?
Yeah, so first semester, for the ones that were here, of course there was no you couldn't have any parties or anything, like no big congregation thing like that.
Yeah.
So you just kind of see each other on Zoom, like, oh, like I know you from Zoom, like it's so good to see you from in person now, kind of thing. Have I met all my classmates? Yes, now I think now I have. Like we're all like we see each other in lab now, or we'll see each other throughout the school, and we're like, hey, like it's so cool seeing you not on Zoom. It's good to see you in person now, kind of thing. And so when we go to lab now, that's when we kind of see each other, or we'll see each other passing in the streets. This apartment building that I live in now, like 30 of us live here. So so I see a lot of them here. So we all just make, some of us will go play basketball. Some of us will go work out. We have workout group needs, people that want to go work out, people want to go play basketball. We have all this kind of things to kind of get us together and kind of, still keep everybody safe and whatnot. So to meet our classmates, it's been kind of difficult because, of course, it's COVID.
Yeah.
And then, the school doesn't want us congregating around each other, because if we get caught congregating, we can get in trouble, and then that can shut down the school, and that's all the kind of things. And that's not what we're trying to have happen. So
yeah,
we try to do it safely. So it's been very kind of difficult to meet everybody and fully meet everybody, kind of like that. But for the most part, we'll meet in small groups if we meet in small groups and stuff like that. So
that sounds cool. I mean, yeah, like the people at Tufts, the 2 people, Tyler and Terrell, and now you, the people that I know, they all seem really cool. So I feel like the whole family vibe that you were talking about is it's really true. Like you guys seem to have a really awesome atmosphere.
Yeah, it is, man. I can honestly say every single one of my classmates are pretty cool. Everybody's pretty cool. Nobody's snooty or oh my gosh. No, everybody's hey, you need some help. If I could ask my classmates, anybody, hey, I need what did you do? Did you get that? Do you mind showing me? Or my class president in Clem, he sits right next to me, and I'm hey, did you get this? And he'll say, yeah, he'll come over, or vice versa. I'll go over there and show him. It's just it's a collaborative environment. There's no shystiness or anything like that. It's very cool.
That's very cool. So Brandon, thank you so much for your time. That'll be it for the interview today. If any of our viewers have any additional questions and want to reach out to you, is there any way they could get you, either through email or Instagram?
Yeah, you could definitely reach out to me through Instagram. My Instagram is Dr.BWall. You can follow me there on Instagram. That's not a problem. We can get you there. Or you can just email me, which is at brandon.wallace@tufts.edu.
Awesome. And we'll include all of that in the description of the video. Again, Brandon, thank you so much. Your advice was super insightful, and I'm sure it's going to go a long way for our viewers. Everyone, if you haven't already, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and make sure to hit the notification bell just to be notified when we upload new content. If you have any questions for us at FutureDDS, you can just DM us on Instagram @_FutureDDS, and we'll try to reply as soon as possible. And until next time, we'll see you all then.